I'm so happy we're joined by Tucker Carlson, the host of Tucker Carlson Tonight and Tucker Carlson Originals on Fox Nation. Now, part one of his latest two-part series, Biden Inc., is available right now on Fox Nation. And we got our hands on an exclusive sneak peek.
Want to know how corrupt a country is? Take a look at how its leaders live. Do the people in charge always wind up richer than they were before they took office? Do they live in sprawling compounds surrounded by armed guards? Does the average senator, for example, live in the same zip code as the people who vote for him? Places like Scranton, Pennsylvania? If not, you've got corruption. During his 5 decades as a public servant, Joe Biden and his family became rich, and they enriched themselves at the country they supposedly serve. How did they do that exactly? Well, we obtained thousands of documents, text messages, emails, and recorded calls that tell the story, that illustrate how America's first family really does business. This is Biden Inc.
Now, Tucker, like the Twitter revelations we discussed in that previous block, there's this stunning lack of curiosity about everything the Biden family has done to enrich itself. Why is that?
Well, and it's longstanding. It's 50 years of ignoring how Joe Biden lived in this sprawling estate in Greenville, Delaware, owned by a former member of the DuPont family on a government salary with no other income. Like, how did you do that exactly? Then he moved to an even bigger place. And then he bought, a place on the shore, on the eastern shore in Rehoboth. And then when he left the VP's house, he moved into one of the biggest houses on the Potomac River in McLean, Virginia. Like, who financed all of this? And of course, nobody asked those questions. And by the way, Joe Biden's not the only member of Congress to get rich from so-called public service, but he's certainly the most obvious example. And we learned on the laptop, of course, one of the ways he got rich was by sharing a bank account with his son, who was selling access to his father as the vice president of the United States to Ukraine and China. This seems like one of the biggest stories of the past decade, and I don't think it's even been covered by the biggest newspapers in the country, which really does tell you everything.
Well, they try to distract from the underlying narrative, which is the Bidens have become wildly wealthy, trading off Joe Biden's position in government by just say, oh, well, you're picking on someone who's gotten through a terrible addiction problem. Well, just because he's had personal problems, you're now piling on. So they go to the salacious details, which kind of get they're titillating. They go to the salacious details, but those aren't really the point here, are they? I mean, they're kind of interesting, but that's not the core of what's going on.
I mean, it's immaterial. It's actually sad. I mean, I knew Hunter Biden. I always kind of liked Hunter Biden, and it's sad to see him totally disintegrate as a person, hurt other people, and behave as he did, like an animal. But that's definitely not the story. The story is how this family of people with no obvious skills or expertise in any area, energy, for example, they don't know anything about energy, like literally nothing, and they're making millions from a Ukrainian energy company? Like, how did that happen? And no one's even asked. And by the way, I would say most Americans at this point would trade a little bit of corruption, they would tolerate a little bit of corruption for some competence and stability. The most galling part of all of this is not Mayor Daley in Chicago in 1965, who at least was plowing the snow. These are people who are demonstrably terrible at running the U.S. government. They're not good at it, still getting rich by selling access to our government, to our main enemy, China. I mean, it's too much.
Tucker, though, this corruption of the Biden family, though, of course, it doesn't have any effect on whether he's going to seek re-election. No, right. Because according to the New York Times, Jill Biden told President Emmanuel Macron at the White House state dinner last week that she and her husband are ready for his re-election campaign. And then Biden then joined the French president and first lady in a playful toast. Now, that could have all been just sound and fury signifying nothing, but I think they're going to go for it.
They may. I mean, I've been consistently surprised. I confidently predicted on television like 8 times that Joe Biden would not actually see his bid for the Democratic nomination through, because I knew that his family members were aware that he had dementia, that he was taking drugs in order to mask the symptoms of dementia. He was totally incapable of serving as president. So I never thought that he would get the nomination, much less get to become the president of the United States. So, like, I'm out of the prediction business on this. It's a pretty good deal for the people who are actually running the government, Barack Obama and Susan Rice, et cetera, because there's no one in the way.
Tucker, is there a way for a populist kind of, whatever you want to call America first, America focused candidate to really win on the national stage. If Republicans don't get this big tech under control by breaking this crazy monopoly on speech that they have, and by getting early voting mastered at the outset of these elections, is it possible for them to win national office given the electoral makeup?
Well, no, of course. And, some of the voting stuff is a question of mechanics. If we have this new system, Republicans, if they want to be in the politics business, need to master it. That's obvious. But on the question of the control that tech has over people's minds, not only will Republicans not get elected if that continues, we won't have a democracy. You can't have a democracy in a country in which information is centrally controlled because people don't have the information necessary to make informed decisions. So, this is the actual threat to democracy when the FBI tells a tech company to hide information from voters 3 weeks before an election. That's not a democracy. It's less than a democracy, obviously.
Yeah, they talked about Russia collusion. What kind of collusion is this? This is within our own government. Tucker, it's great to see you. I saw you at the Fox Nation Awards, Patriot Awards. Great to see you tonight. And we look forward to part 2. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.